There was tongues, there was healings, there was exorcisms, there was all this kind of stuff that was happening, and it doesn't seem like that's happening anymore. In the Book of Mormon, it says basically kind of gives you the blueprint of how a church is supposed to operate. And he even says, like, within the Book of Mormon, it even says that basically, what is a true church? It's a church that all the gifts are operational. And so if you're seeing the gifts manifest themselves, those are the signs of a true church. Understanding the Book of Mormon in the early church days that was going on, it resonates with charismatics and Pentecostals in a way that it doesn't resonate with Presbyterians and cessationists, those who don't believe that the gifts are available to today.
Welcome into another Key David podcast. I am joined by the legends, David the Lion Douglas and Trevor the Key Keys, but the legend of legends, that's right, we got Stephen Pynakker for you, and I'm so excited. Listen, somebody, you've heard us talk about oracle codes. Somebody's like, Shane, have you heard what Stephen Pynakker's oracle code is? I'm like, no. They send it, this is LDC, and he's so into the oracle code. I don't know how he found your birthday, but he found your birthday.
Yeah.
And he's like, Shane, it's 9/11/9/11. I'm like, well, he must be on the emergency call list. And so the code has caused me to go like, okay, there is something going on with Stephen Pynakker. He has a specific and a unique work here to do upon this earth. And I told Trevor, I'm like, hey, we got to get in with Stephen. Like, whatever we got to do, we got to, like, I don't know if you got to, like, send him to the Ritz-Carlton or what, but we got to get in with Stephen because he's somebody and he's here to do something because his code tells me that. And so really excited to have Stephen on. I don't even know what we're talking about today. I'm just happy to be here. Trevor's the one that's like got a program and a plan. And so I'm going to kick it over to Trevor. Trevor, tell me where we go from here. I'm excited just to listen in and be a part of the show today.
Yeah, absolutely. No, we're excited. Stephen's kind of anchored himself in this really unique position where if you got a LDS Mormon book, you want to get on his show. And he's been able to reach across all different branches and, have friends and deep relationships and all of those. It's super cool. So what I kind of wanted to do, we talked a little bit about it in the first show. But I wanted to just get a little origin story, Stephen, on how this all came about, like where the idea came from. Who was your first guest, like your flag that you stamped in. And then I want to go in and I've got your page pulled up and I want to go in and talk about some of your favorite guests. Right. And, ones that you were just like connected with. And, there's a lot of people you've had back on multiple times. I kind of want to get into that. And then towards the second half of it, I really want to get into Denver Snuffer. You and I had a conversation about Denver. I've been fascinated by Denver Snuffer for a long time. I have 2 books on my nightstand. One of them's Denver Snuffer's book, Passing the Heavenly Gift. And I've got so many times into reading it and I've stopped. I'm like 20 pages in and I've stopped, but I can't get it off my nightstand. And I've listened to probably 10 or 15 podcasts. And when we were talking last, you said, I've listened to every podcast that is out there, every single thing that's out there on Snuffer. And I think he's a really important person. And I want to get into it a little bit more. And long term, like we'd love to have him on our podcast and have a conversation with him. So let's jump into the origin story. Like, where did MBR come from? And by the way, I'm gonna pop up your YouTube. Let me show you here so that everybody can see this. Can you guys see my screen?
And for all of those who don't know, we've had Stephen Pynakker on, but it was a long time ago when we didn't have nearly as many followers as we do today. So if you haven't caught that episode, go search it, go find it, watch that, and then you can come back to this. But we'll give you kind of a brief intro of who he is so you understand the work that he's engaged in.
Absolutely. So it's Mormon Book Reviews on YouTube. Are you anywhere else, like
We
Facebook or?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook, Twitter. I'm very active on Reddit as well. So there's different places that the people can reach me at, and Instagram.
Okay. So where did this come from? Where did you get? Because you're not. What people don't know is you're not Mormon.
Right. Yeah, I'm not a Latter-day Saint. I'm a Never Mo. And just especially for you guys, I'm wearing my Smith Rigdon 44 shirt, president for when he was running for president of the United States. I got another special hat here too that let make Kimura great again. It's one of my favorite hats of all time that I've received. And yeah, so I guess a few years ago I was invited to speak at my very first Book of Mormon rally in Independence, Missouri, and this is I've spoken at it twice. And the first time I was there, the the uh, the apostle who was organizing it, and this was all the different branches of the restoration. So there were people. The stake president was there, the mission president was there, and it's right there at a Community of Christ, or actually a Restoration Church in Independence, Missouri. And this apostle, we're on the phone. He's like, "Well, wait, you're not a Mormon, and you don't necessarily believe in the book. Well, what is the Book of Mormon, and how am I supposed to represent you?" And I said, "Well, I'm a fan a fanboy of the Book of Mormon." He's like, "Oh, okay, I can work with that." So that's how I was announced, as being a fan. And a lot of people don't, and that's what's so interesting is that when I first started my channel, and then about a year after I started my channel, I was on Mormon Stories. And I remember when I went on Mormon Stories, I heard from people throughout the world who were like, "I'm just like you. I'm a fanboy of Mormonism as well, and I'm a Nevermo." So there's actually a lot of people out there that are fascinated by the story. And actually, if you think, Jacob Hansen was on Alex O'Connor's program a couple days ago, and Alex was talking about, man, the story is amazing. How come nobody knows about this? And that's the whole point. Is like when people ask me, "Why are you in this space?" I'm like, Have you heard the story? It's a remarkable story. I mean, you literally have like this biblical exodus happening on American soil where these people cross the plains and
Jacob
hit the
Hansen.
desert plume. And to me, that's like an amazing story in and of itself. Whether you believe in it or not is irrelevant. It's real history. And so I've about well, actually closing it on 4 years now is when I first started the channel. But before that, I was thinking I'm going to start a YouTube channel, and I saw this guy that had this YouTube channel called LDS Book Reviews. I thought, you know what? I'm gonna see if anybody pulled the name Mormon Book Reviews. And nobody did. So I grabbed the name, and I will tell you that when I first started the channel, I would have still considered myself an agnostic at that point. So I would not have called myself an evangelical or a Christian. I would say I was an agnostic. And so the intent of the channel was to do a scholarly secular program where I was just going to review the books in my bookshelf, and maybe have a couple hundred subscribers. But I'm into this thing. I just get started, and all of a sudden, I released a couple book reviews, and my very first interview was with Rick Bennett of Gospel Tangents, which to me was huge because, like, a huge fanboy of Rick
Huge
Bennett.
fanboy. I met him at Sunstone, and I was like,
Oh, I know, and I was so shocked that he, like, gave me the time of day, and here I am, this guy that nobody knows, and I have, like, 20 subscribers, and he agreed to come on my program and be my first guest. So that was really, like, cool that he did that, and Rick was really instrumental in helping me out and getting me connections early on in my channel, and he kept on saying
here's the thing about Rick. Sorry to cut you off. When we started this, I kind of set a goal out to be like Rick in that we bring on people. We get a lot of flack for bringing on people that aren't LDS. Like a lot. People are like, why are you guys platforming those people? And it's just like, because they have a good message. And I really respected that about Rick. Like Rick is he's our LDS, not our LDS, our LDS, and he has everybody on, and he's just seeking truth. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and in many ways, I was patterning my program after Gospel Tangents as well, because I really enjoyed it. I mean, the 2 podcasts that I watched every night was Mormon Stories and Gospel Tangents. I consumed so many of their videos throughout the years, and I really enjoyed Rick, and so it was really important. Then, actually, the second guest I had on was Dr. Christopher Thomas, who wrote the book A Pentecostal Reads the Book of Mormon, and he was the founding president of the Book of Mormon Studies Association. Here you have this Pentecostal that's the president of this Book of Mormon Studies Association, and his book, Pentecostal Reads the Book of Mormon, is considered to be a great book. As a matter of fact, I recommend to everybody a Pentecostal Reads the Book of Mormon, a literary and theological introduction by Christopher Thomas. And
What's his take? What is a Pentecostal's take on the Book of Mormon? How do they look at it? How
it's
does
it is the Book of Mormon is a remarkably Pentecostal document. Um, so to give you some context here, in 1906 was the Azusa Street revivals. Okay, revival. The Azusa Street was on Azusa Street in Los Angeles, California. There was this old little, just tiny little building where you had this grouping of uh, poor white people, Mexicans, Armenians, and blacks all meeting, and then that's when the whole Pentecostal movement started. So the Pentecostal movement started with this basically the people on the other side of the tracks. And now, since 1906, the Pentecostal Charismatic Renewal Movement has 500 million adherents. And by the middle of this century, will be bigger than Islam. I always tell people, if you're looking for a latter-day move of God, you might want to look at the Pentecostal Charismatic Movement, because in many ways it's going to be probably one of the biggest manifestations of Christianity very shortly, if it isn't already in some ways.
Who's cares? I've heard that before. What does that mean when they say charismatic? Like,
So Pentecostal is essentially, okay, so just to get back to this real quick, what's so fascinating is that we have fully developed Pentecostal doctrine in the Book of Mormon that Dr. Thomas and everybody else assumed originated with the Azusa Street revivals in 1906, especially fire baptism, those kind of concepts. And that was really integral in the founding of the Assemblies of God, which is the largest Pentecostal denomination in the world, the Church of God, Cleveland, Tennessee, which is he's affiliated with, and the Church of the Foursquare, which is really big out west. And so you have these unique Pentecostal doctrines that came out of the Pentecostal movement, but guess what? They're in the Book of Mormon. So the Book of Mormon actually anticipates the Pentecostal movement and actually even articulates a fully formed Pentecostal doctrine that would not be brought to this world, manifest itself until 1906. And none of these people knew about the Book of Mormon. So it's really a remarkable story. So when you ask what is a charismatic, well, what happened was that you had the Pentecostal movement essentially starting these churches because they were kind of thrown out of all their other churches. The Pentecostal movement then made its way into the mainline denominations, and that's what started the charismatic movement in the 1960s. Most best known through the Full Gospel Businessmen's Association, which was founded by an Armenian. And what's so interesting about these Armenians who play a key role in the Pentecostal movement is the reason why there's so many Armenians in California is that in the 19th century, there was this boy prophet that predicted that there was going to be these great calamities against the Armenian people and they needed to flee. Everybody hear of the Armenian massacre?
Is this the Armenian genocide?
Yeah.
The Turks?
Yep. So and there were other persecutions that even predated that, but this essentially, they had a boy prophet who had this prophecy that they needed to flee to America, to the land of the free. So now you have these Armenians come to California, and this includes the Kardashians. So Demas Shakarian, who founded the Full Gospel Businessmen's Association, that's their uncle. And so the Armenian people in California, they're all Pentecostals. Well,
and my best friend is Sharanian, and they fled at their grandfathers fled at the same time.
Okay, so here you have this interesting migration happening and this thing happening in California, and then it makes its way into the mainline Protestant denominations, Lutheran, even Catholic, all the different groups, and they have these charismatic movements that happen. So basically, charismatic is Pentecostalism via mainline Protestantism and Catholicism. That'd be the way. In other words, those denominations kind of inform the Pentecostal experience. They're not, and then later a lot of these people just end up becoming non-denominational Christians. And that's kind of where it's at now.
Is there like an org? Like, is there like a top-down structure of this,
No.
or is it all independent?
There's denominations, but that's kind of breaking down the whole denominational structure. But no, the charismatic Pentecostal movement is actually manifested within all the churches. So you'll have there's charismatic Baptists, Southern Baptists, there's charismatic Methodists, there's so the fact is that it's both in
Where are the charismatic Mormons?
the charismatic Mormons. Well, look, the way I see it is I tell people, I said, if you look at the early days of the charismatic movement, and Pentecostalism, it's very similar to the early days of Mormonism. A few weeks ago, the Church of Jesus Christ came to my Christian community here in Florida and had a conference for the southeastern United States. I had about 150 saints here, okay? And they're using the church facilities here on the grounds. And I had this 101-year-old prophetess missionary come with me and my mom to the service. And this prophetess was sitting in the service, and she wanted to sit in the front row. So we're sitting in the front row. And afterwards, she said, that was so refreshing. That reminded me of the old days of when the Spirit was moving in the churches. So I just tell people that the Church of Jesus Christ is the April 6th, 1830 church. If you want to find what it was like to go into that into that gathering on April 6th, go to a Church of Jesus Christ service. You'll feel the Spirit there, and you'll that Spirit of April 6th is still there.
I was in Mexico with my daughters 3 weeks ago, and I was looking for a present for somebody, and I was behind, and I'm walking down, and this is just like in the tourist section of Cabo San Lucas, and I could hear like singing, and I'm like, oh, this is worship, and I'm trying to like find out where it is, and finally I wander my way in, and it's an Assembly of God in Spanish. And I just felt like moved to go in and check it out, and I walk in the back of the room. I told Shane about this. And I'm standing in the back, and there's probably 60, 70 people there, and they're worshiping. And I just kind of like slowly inserted myself in, and I told Shane this. I'm like, dude, there was so much Spirit there. Like, I was brought to tears a couple of times in it. And, I'm just like, we're missing a little bit of this worship. Shane and I have talked about it with Southern Baptists, and
I every time I go to the South, I have real estate down in the South in North Carolina. I always go to a Baptist church because I love how they sing and how they worship. And I'm like, man, I love the doctrines of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. In my opinion, the greatest doctrines found in any organized religious institution on planet Earth. I would debate anybody on that. I've studied them all. I've read everything. I had 62 months in prison. I was the librarian. Trust me, I've read it, and I know where the true doctrine lies. Now, worship, we're like a 2 out of 10. Maybe, and 2's generous.
Yeah.
Like there's somehow a marriage needs to take place
Yep.
between how the Assembly of God or the, I don't even know what term you use, the Baptists, I don't even know what vein they're in, and the members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints come together with the doctrines and the worship, and you would have at that point you would have pure truth. So you have high spirit, great
Dude,
talk.
you have a revival, man. It's like
have a revival.
music. I take my daughters once a year to a different church, usually during Christmas. And, the music alone, it's so moving. And I always get that from my kids. They're like, I love the music. How come we don't do music? I'm like, I don't know.
It actually, the very first church in the Restoration that I darkened the door of was the Church of Jesus Christ congregation, about a 90-minute drive from my house. And I have to tell you, I felt the Spirit. It was very powerful. And actually, that church played a pivotal role in actually, when I said earlier it was going to be a secular scholarly channel, I realized early on when I started encountering the story of the Church of Jesus Christ that also the Spirit will be there too. And I have Latter-day Saints tell me that they watch my program because they feel that at any moment the Holy Ghost might show up. And I go to this church service, and it's powerful. And it finally gave me confirmation that the $1,500 I had saved up to buy new wheels for my car, I decided I was going to invest in the channel and fly out to Utah to attend my very first Mormon History Association conference. And that's when I booked Richard Bushman. And that just caused shockwaves because at the time, Richard Bushman wasn't doing podcasts. So he goes on this little unknown podcaster, but this is all the time when I finally get to meet Don Bradley. Him and I were in communication before that. I got to meet all these different scholars like Matt Harris. And Matt Harris actually was my third guest on my program, but I had met him before that. So I meet all these people. And then while I'm there that weekend, I attend my very first church service of the Church of Jesus Christ in Lehi, Utah, Rick Bennett's congregation. And I go in there. And the first thing I'm sitting there, I'm like, boy, these people could use a cup of coffee. And because it was so, I hate to say it, but it was so dead. And yeah, there we go.
Yeah, you know what this says on here? It says fuel your destiny. I drink this just because it says fuel your destiny. I drink it. That says what it says. Fuel your destiny.
Does it work?
Bro,
Does it-
you see how I roll?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, give me the fuel I need. I don't go a day without that. 300 milligrams, bang, sign me up. So I hope this conference, they don't say this is going away.
You get some therapy,
I literally am like, dude, if they do that, I'm going to need like a beard card. You know how at BYU you can get a beard card? I'm like, I'm going to go to my bishop, stake president. I'm going to need an energy drink card. I'm going to need an exception because I can't fuel my destiny without it.
Love it. I love it. That's great. But, it was just so fascinating seeing the structure of the services being similar, but seeing like the spirit operating in one and not really sensing it in the other. I'm not bashing. I'm just telling you my personal experience of being involved in the charismatic movement. And I will tell you, I have Latter-day Saints come to me and they'll be like, can I ask you a personal question? Like, what's that? What's it like to speak in tongues? There's a real hunger and thirst for the gifts within the restoration that they feel like when they read the early history of their church, there was tongues, there was healings, there was exorcisms, there was all this kind of stuff that was happening. And it doesn't seem like that's happening anymore. And so,
So Stephen, explain to me, because I'm an idiot and I grew up in Utah. And I didn't even know, this is a true story, 14 years old, I didn't even know there were other churches.
right.
I thought
Right.
every church, like this literally small town Clinton, Utah boy, that's what I thought. I was like, why do there need to be other churches? What's wrong with ours? Now,
Yeah.
I still to this day don't help me understand what the other churches believe is the gift of tongues. Like, how does it work? What is it? Do you mind diving into that? Just because I don't know. And I genuinely have never talked to anybody. This is my first opportunity to really understand. I know it's a thing, it's in the scriptures, but I don't know. Like in our church, we're like, well, that just means that when you go on your mission, you learn another language and you get the gift of tongues. And I've just accepted that, but I don't think that's what it is. Would you mind diving a little deeper on that?
So this is this is somewhat controversial in the charismatic Pentecostal world because some people say that the baptism you receive the baptism of the Holy Spirit with evidence of tongues. In other words, speaking in tongues is evidence that you received the baptism of the Holy Spirit. I'm very cautious about taking a position on that, but I will tell you that my experience was that I was a young boy, and we were at Faith Tabernacle on the north side of Chicago, just down the road from Wrigley Field, where the Cubs play. And that was the church that we went to for years. And there was this prophet by the name of Carlton Pearson, I believe, and I'll remember. Carlton Arthur, I think he was an African American. Actually, I think he had Caribbean background. And they were having people up there to get the laying down of hands, to receive a blessing. And I didn't go up there with any expectation. But when he laid his hands on me, I felt like this force from outside of me hit me. And I started uttering this language, and it shocked me. It surprised me. I wasn't expecting it. I was like I couldn't control my mouth, and I was almost trying to fight it. And then it just came out, and I'm like, whoa, it's like, what's going on? And next thing you know, boom, I hit the ground. I'm slain in the spirit. So
How old were you?
I was in fourth grade.
Wow.
And I was not expecting. I did not go up there saying, I'm going to go up there and speak in tongues. I did not have that. It just happened. And it was really powerful. And so, it's interesting because that's the only time I ever spoke in tongues was at that initial receiving of the baptism of the Holy Spirit. So, and also just, one thing that Christopher Thomas discovered with this book, that his research on the Book of Mormon, he said, he says that in the Book of Mormon, it says basically kind of gives you the blueprint of how a church is supposed to operate. And he even says, like, within the Book of Mormon, it even says that basically what is a true church? It's a church that all the gifts are operational. And so if you're seeing the gifts manifest themselves, those are the signs of a true church. And so I and when he and so understanding the Book of Mormon in the early church days that was going on, it resonates with charismatics and Pentecostals in a way that it doesn't resonate with Presbyterians and cessationists, those who don't believe that the gifts are available to today. But there's at least speak a common language that I think is really important. And, it's fascinating because if you go to Independence, Missouri, there is kind of there's an overlap between Pentecostalism and the Restoration occurring. There is a Pentecostal theological seminary right there in downtown Independence, Missouri. One of them actually is a member of the Church of Jesus Christ who got his degree from there, and he works for a major charismatic ministry in Kansas City. Now, you have to understand that there's this movement called the Kansas City Prophets, and they are just outside of Independence, and they made a lot of prophecies about that area that actually are similar to some of the prophecies that were given about that area by the Mormons, unbeknownst to them.
Wow.
And so you have this convergence, this really fascinating convergence of Pentecostals and Restorationists and Latter-day Saints. Because again, the beautiful thing about Independence is you can visit basically almost all the branches of the Restoration are right there. They're all blocks from each other. You can walk so one to one.
There is something going on with that area. Jan and I talked about it. Like
Honestly,
it
I think it's backwards.
in what way?
Bro, my Apple Maps wouldn't work. It's the only place, and I go all over the US, that my Apple Maps would not work there.
So you gotta use Google.
And I don't use Google. I had to download Google. I do not use Google Maps. I don't use anything. Apple was made by God. Google was made by some man. I don't know. I only use, it's a code, just like the number code. I'm a weirdo. You guys can, like, if you got an Android, I'll prove my point. Apple, made by God. Android, no soul. Made by man. It's a robot. So you tell me who you're going to trust in this whole thing. I'm just saying, but my Apple Maps didn't work there. But there is something going on there. There's some kind of energy that's there.
There's
And then it's confusing. Like, I didn't like the energy personally. So maybe I'm like the devil because that's supposed to be Zion. And I'm like, my Zion, the Zion I see, it's where I am right now in Utah. That's where Zion is for me. If you want to go to Missouri, then if they say everybody pack up your stuff and go to Missouri, I'd be like, have a good one. I'm good.
Well, that's interesting to hear that from you. It is actually, I love going to Independence, and I think there's a lot of good people there, and they're very
Totally.
there. And
That is 100% true.
I think that because you have like this little patch, this little grouping of the Restoration right in the buckle of the Bible Belt. And so you're seeing a cross-pollination happening there that you don't see in Utah. And I think that's really, really interesting. Now, are you guys aware of that new temple that was built about an hour away? Okay.
Yeah, I'm friends with the guy who was the architect of it.
Which temple? One of Mormon?
Was it one? Remember, Shane, that one that you were trying to get you an extra tour giver?
I'm not kidding you. I'm not kidding you. This is why I say it's backwards. I'm not kidding you. I couldn't find it.
You couldn't find it. We gave you the
I
exact
went to a
address.
gas station that said I was 0.2 miles away. They're like, we're not aware of any temple. I showed them a picture. I am not kidding you. I don't know if I was in another dimension. I'm not kidding you. I drove around. I was so mad because I wanted to go see it. It's the polygamous temple, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, and it's not just polygamous, but it's open.
I'm telling you, whatever dimension I was in, it doesn't exist.
Wow.
I'm not kidding you. You guys, Trevor, vouch for me. I told you guys, I'm like,
Well, we were trying to give you, we gave you pretty good address from the guy who was the architect of it, and you couldn't find it. So for whatever reason,
to people, I went to a church. I'm like, do you know this place? They're like, don't know it. Never heard of it. Never seen it. What? No, I'm not kidding you. So finally, I'm just like, after an hour and a half, that's why I'm saying there's something with me and my energy that didn't work in that zone.
Yeah, that could be. Well, and what's so interesting is this temple is actually kind of in between Springfield, Missouri, and Joplin, Missouri. Springfield, Missouri is the headquarters of Assemblies of God, the largest Pentecostal denomination in the world. And Joplin, Missouri is the headquarters of the United Pentecostal Church, the largest oneness Pentecostal church in the world. So there's a lot of interesting converging between our world, my world, and your world that's happening. And so I think that's what I really love. I think there's I don't know. I personally, Shane, the energy I pick up there has always been really positive. That's been my hope.
And I'm not saying it's not positive. I'm just saying I mean, literally when my maps couldn't work and I couldn't find places, I got frustrated. So the people were incredible. The people were nice. I met so many amazing people. So that was fine. I'm just telling you that it was like turbulence for me. It just felt like, and I'm kind of very empathic. Like I can sense energies. Prison was so hard for somebody like me. Like the only way to shut down my energies that I feel was the honey buns and Twinkies because I didn't want to know what these criminals were thinking or feeling. So and I want to, my 9 energy, your 9 energy is the same. It's humanitarian energy. It's energy where you want to serve, you want to help, you want to lift, you want to do all of those things. And so the people out there were great, but the energy, like the way their roads are structured, the way that they're set up, the way that the maps work, it was just like, and maybe I'm just so used. Say whatever you want to say about Brigham Young. Listen, the dude built a city that's badass. Literally the way he structured it, how big the roads are, how it's like that dude was a colonizer.
Yeah, quadrant. Yeah.
But I mean, I just felt like things were disorganized and I would miss turns and I was just frustrated because my maps didn't work.
And meanwhile, I'm viewing it as like this is a magnet spot. Like I met so many people that I'm like, so are you from here? They're like, no. Like in 1993, I had this experience. Like everyone had this experience that brought them there, right? And it's like it's almost like this mecca that's calling people to this area. And and I know that I'm not the only one alone in saying this. Like I just over and over met these people.
I'm just not righteous like those people, so I don't get that call. And so that's the reality. I'm too much of a heathen. I'm too much of a Babylonian. And literally the people that are being called out there are some of the kindest, most loving, most spirit-centered people. I mean, Josh Gailey, who was the guy you guys, Jim Foley, you see it around his house that offered up his house.
There was a guy that gave us his old video equipment to live stream the whole thing.
I mean, literally,
Spencer Aldridge.
That's the name I was looking for. Just like literally would give you, they are the most Christ-like, Christ-centered, Christ-centric people. So it wasn't the people that my energy with the people was good. It was like things were old. Things were not designed the way that I'm used to. The cities hadn't evolved, dirt roads. Like it's just like I felt
I
like
have a theory. If the city of Enoch literally did rip up and ascend from there, maybe you're just feeling like this vacuum. You want the city of Enoch to come back down so you can be at home.
yeah.
I thought the city of Enoch was in the Gulf of Mexico.
Yeah, I've heard that as well. When I said that,
Right by the Yucatan.
yeah,
Who knows? Why would God even take up land anyways? It's not like he needs land. He just takes the people with him. We're all worried about where it's located. I mean, it was the people. The people, they ascended. They did it. So
okay. So
I've heard the Gulf of Mexico too.
I've heard it too. Yeah. Let me pull this back in. So, all right. So we've hit kind of origin of how you began.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Richard Bushman, because that was a huge interview for you. Probably put you on the map so that all these other people were like, geez, if Richard Bushman will talk to this guy, like,
Yeah.
I want to be on the show, right?
Well, the day after I taped my interview with Richard Bushman, I was talking on the phone with John Dehlin.
Okay.
So that he's like, okay, I need to get to know this guy. And
Time out. I want John Dehlin to come on our show.
I do too.
Oh yeah. Open invite.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
How was that?
what's that?
I was interviewing him.
Oh, So it's really funny because, you know, I just started my channel. I didn't even have maybe 150 subscribers. And I'm talking to John in June of 2021. And by September of 2021, I'm having lunch with him with my friend Christopher Thomas, who's good friends with John. And it was actually Christopher Thomas's interview on Mormon Stories that actually kind of led me back into faith eventually. But I had lunch with John, and it was sometimes I tell people, I said, I wish there was a camera recording it because it was so intense because we were kind of going at it. Like he was really pushing hard on me and I was pushing back at him, having this great conversation. And it was wonderful. And I do believe I tell people, and you know, the people at Ward Radio, they don't like the fact that I'm friends with John Dehlin. And I told their producer, I said, don't you think that, because they don't like that I'm friends with him. And I said, don't you think that maybe God wants a person of faith in John Dehlin's life? And that's why I'm in his life. So I went on his show, got interviewed. We taped 5 episodes over the course of 2 days, 12 hours long. And then he's been on my show a couple times where I actually used his studio. He's gracious enough to let me interview him in his studio. And I've done a couple interviews with him. And my intent is that just about every time I make it out to Utah, I want to at least once a year interview John Dehlin. Yeah, John opens up to an evangelical. And that's actually a very important interview. And
Does he believe in Christ?
John Dehlin wants to believe. That'd be the way I'd say it. John Dehlin wants to believe.
I agree with it too. Like, he's fascinated by it all. Like, he can't give it up.
And John is really truly one of the most I love John. I've had the opportunity to become friends with him and get to know him on a personal level. And I think that he's just a seeker in many ways. And even Jacob Hansen said, I don't no longer believe that John Dehlin wants to destroy the church. He wants to reform the church and he loves the church. And so I think that Jacob Hansen has had done a 180 on John Dehlin. And I told Jacob, I said, yes, I know that's the John I know. John loves the people of the church. John actually loves the church. John still is hurting over the fact that he was excommunicated. And John wants to actually bring reforms to the church. Whether you agree or disagree with the stuff he wants to do, that's one thing. But let's not question his sincerity of really trying to help the church. That even Jacob, when the Paul brothers went on Mormon Stories last year, and then asked him some questions. The next day, I'm on the phone with Jacob Hansen. He's like, I've had a Damascus Road experience about John Dehlin. I want more people to see that side of John, okay? Because I think that in many ways he is trying to be an instrument to help bring about some transparency and reforms in the church, which I think I'm in favor of that too.
It's, you know, listen.
We're in
I
favor.
agree.
Yeah.
We're in favor of that. That there needs to be some reforms. Listen, I'm dealing with a situation literally right now, and I'm not kidding you. I've had a guy on my show. He's active. He's obedient. He does everything he's supposed to do. He's talking about things. He esoteric scripture, whatever. And he got called in by the stake president, and they took his temple recommend away and are thinking of holding a disciplinary council for him coming on our podcast. Now, hopefully he calls my stake president, and hopefully my stake president says, like, I got lists for days of people that have put their garments back on, come back to church, got rebaptized, found faith, whatever, and started reading the scriptures because of the work we're doing. But to excommunicate this guy because he went on a podcast, what is wrong? Hey, stake president, if you're watching this, come see me. We should have a discussion, you and I.
Shame on you. Like, give me a break. Yeah,
It's just, it frustrates me to no end that people would exercise that unrighteous dominion. And amen to that stake president's priesthood for taking away this worthy priesthood holder's temple recommend. Amen to the priesthood of that stake president if he goes through with excommunicating that guy. Amen to him right now. That's how I feel about that.
Yeah. No, totally. And this, by the way, we're being careful in who we say who this is. This is the #1 feedback of any show and repeated guests that we've had on Zion Media, saying how much it's helped them how much they've studied and watched these videos like 3 times over and enlightened them and given them hope and brought them back to the church. And it's just like, that is the wrong move. Pivoting back to John, I told people for years, he loves the church. You don't create a podcast and do 4-hour podcasts on something if you're not a scorned lover, right? Like, that's how I'd say John is a scorned lover. He's upset about the way that they treated him, and he still has this burning passion. And I agree with you. I think I've heard him give his opinion on being an atheist, and I think he wants to believe.
Yes. And actually, if you watch, I think it's my first, I don't even remember, it's my first or second interview with John. John says, I want to believe that Jesus paid for my sins at the cross. I want to believe that he rose from the grave. I want to believe that we're going to heaven. He's like, so it's like, it's almost like it's as close to a Christian profession of faith one could make without making one, right? It's the wanting to. And I completely understand why there would be a hesitancy to go back into faith when you felt scorned or hurt by another. And unfortunately, what happens is, especially with, look, if you have trouble, if you're going to the Methodist Church and you have an issue with something that the Wesley brothers wrote in the 19th century or 18th century, and you're like, you know what, I don't really care for this church anymore. I'm just going to go to the Presbyterian church down the street. No problem. Everything's fine. But the problem is with Mormonism is that it does kind of basically, by making we're the one true church thing a claim, and it kind of taints that, just kind of makes it look like no other Christian churches are legit or whatever. And then on top of it, you have all these crazy evangelicals standing outside of General Conference holding their signs, and maybe they're holding up the temple garments, mocking these people as they're going into a General Conference or there's a temple grand opening. Okay. These people out there, and they look like idiots. And people who are these people who are going to General Conference and they're looking across the street at these evangelical protesters, they're like, well, I'll say one thing, if I were to ever leave my church, I certainly wouldn't join their church. And so that causes, I think, a lot of bad faith stuff done by evangelical activists have caused Latter-day Saints to just skip looking at other churches altogether and just go right straight into atheism. And so I think that in many ways, the evangelicals are at fault for some of this stuff that happens, and it just saddens me. And so when people deconstruct their faith, like, and I hear from a lot of people throughout the world, especially when I went on Mormon Stories, I would hear frequently, and I'd go to Sunstone and people would come walk up to me and say, your story really touched me. You gave me hope that, my shelf, I'll just paraphrase, basically the emails and these encounters are something along the lines, my shelf broke about 1.5 years ago. I'm just trying to put the pieces back together, and you give me hope that I could believe in God again, talking to me. And that was based on my appearance on Mormon Stories, which the last episode was how Mormonism saved an evangelical's life. On Mormon Stories. Think about that. And so, yeah, that's actually my repost on the channel, but it's on my channel, but also it's on, I think, yeah. But that was a really powerful episode, to the point people were crying. People were sending me these emails where you could tell they were crying as they were writing it. The next morning, I'm meeting with a father at Cracker Barrel who's a Latter-day Saint, and he's just breaking down, crying, wanting to reach out to me based on my story that I told in Mormon Stories. And so this is really resonating in this world. And I think that, God has placed me in this place for a reason. And what's so funny is, almost from the beginning, I've heard of this channel, I heard from many, many manifestations of the restoration where the people have come to me, and this is including somebody who's a prominent person in the community of Christ, have said, I believe that you, Steve, are going to play a role in bringing forth Zion. And I've heard that
your code tells me that you will.
Okay. And I don't know. And sometimes I'm like, I don't know what that means. The concept of Zion is not a familiar concept to my faith tradition. Now, I'm familiar with it based on my studies of Mormonism, and I don't even know what that means. But I also tell people, I said, listen, God told me early on when I started this, he said, don't make any plans. So I don't make any plans. And he said, and he just followed my lead. And so when I get an email from somebody or I get a phone call from somebody, he's like, okay, this must be an appointment. The Lord sent me. He's my scheduler.
We were just talking about that yesterday, Shane and I, about the following the synchronicities, right? Like following what you're being prompted to do, right? And that you told me that same thing a couple of days ago, how you don't make any plans. I was thinking about that when Shane and I were talking, and when you stop listening, right? When that email comes in or that phone call comes in and you don't take that, what happens is you get less of them, right? It's like the universe or God or whoever's sending these people your way, they're like, oh, he's not listening.
Yes.
Hey, Trevor, tell the story that happened literally yesterday at Grand America.
Yeah, we're at Grand America, sitting down with a guest that we've had on, and we're walking out, and he stops me and he goes, "You need to go talk to those people right there. They're in solar." And I'm like, "They're in solar? Like, how do you know?" And I'm like, "I don't want it." And he's like, "Just go talk to him." So I like walk over and I kind of like look at him. I try to see if I can see any solar thing. And I'm in solar. Shane and I are in solar. And I come back and we're walking out, and I'm like, I couldn't tell. And we're literally going to the valet, and Shane goes, "Oh, I got to go back and talk to him." He's like, "I have to go back and talk to him." So Shane peels out. We go to the valet. We're sitting there, and Shane comes back and he goes, "They're Bitcoin miners." And my old business partner is one of the largest Bitcoin miners in the world. And
They're looking for energy.
They're looking for energy. And we've been working on a solution with Native Americans on their land to be able to procure energy at an affordable price. Because right now, Bitcoin mining is pretty much out of reach of anyone. The cost of electricity has gotten so high. It takes so many computations to do it. And, and Shane go, I'm like, "You're kidding me." So I go back in there and talk to these guys for 10, 15 minutes. And I'm just like, how in the heck did Shane know these guys are in? And it wasn't solar, but guess what? They're using solar to power their Bitcoin mines. And for sure, we're going to do something with these guys. And it was just, it was pretty cool, but it's just being open to these synchronicities. When back to the Dehlin thing, when Shane convinced me to start this podcast, I didn't want to do it. I'd completely gone off. So I got divorced 5 years ago, and I'm just like, I'm done with social media. I'm never going on again. And I literally, if you go onto my social media, I don't have a post for almost 5 years. And he told me, he goes, "Dude, there's so many good people that have left. Like the smartest, the best ones have left." And I just look at my friends and my family and people that have left. And like you mentioned, they leave and they go atheist. And that is heartbreaking to me. Like that is like the worst part of it all. And he goes, "Trev, we could bring people back. We could pull people back, or people that are on the edge, that are just, their shelf has crashed and they're thinking of leaving and they've lost hope. Like, we can bring those people back because there's so much good here." And that's what sold me. And that's like one of our main reasons. It's firm up those that are in it, stop people from leaving, and pull people back. And I don't even care if they come back into the church. I want them just to come back to faith, and just believing again. And I feel like John is on that cusp. And I believe people that watch his podcast are of that same heart and mind. They love it, and they're heartbroken. And so it's almost like they're commiserating in these experiences. And I know I've done it. I told you, Stephen, in 2008, I was atheist for a bit, and it, to me, watching these things is like, yeah, I understand that. I feel that. I've felt that. And, so yeah, I believe 100% you're a important part in whatever the heck is happening here. And,
Well, and just so you know, for 13 years, I was an atheist. Okay. As I even told you that at the beginning of this channel, I would have considered myself an agnostic at the time. And one of the things I've been trying to do is actually have dialogue in the atheist world too. So I've had Michael Shermer on, who is the publisher of Skeptic Magazine. I've had Aaron Ra on, who's one of the biggest atheists on YouTube, and actually now is part of the Satanic Temple, so I can say I had a Satanist on my program. And so I want to have a dialogue with atheists as well, and because I can speak to one.
sorry about that.
Oh, that's no problem. And so I don't look, I feel like there are people who think they were atheists for a while, but they really didn't fully deconstruct their faith. And I think sometimes they don't realize that atheism, we can tell if somebody deconstructed their faith or not. And so that's why a lot of people were kind of pushing back on the whole Austin Fife interview I did, because a lot of people didn't think that he had actually entirely deconstructed, which I think there's some validity to that. Although I love Austin and I hope they have him on with Kobe Reddish soon. But I think it's important.
Jacob Hansen, welcome to
But I think it's important to not stereotype atheists as being evil. I tell people as I told Aaron Ra, I said, I'm a pro-atheist evangelical, and his eyes got really big. He said, what do you mean? I said, well, some people need to go through an atheist phase because they have been so hurt by spiritual and religious PTSD that they almost have even the concept of God can be triggering to them. So there's a therapeutic value to atheism. So I always try to add that to the conversation because I don't want to make it sound like, oh, all atheists are evil and they're bad. It's like, no, some of them have really good reasons to be atheists.
Yeah, dude, it was really healthy for me. There's nothing better that has helped my faith than this moment of atheism for me because I'm 28. I don't know how old I was in 2008. 33 years old, and I had just grown up in it. I just accepted it from the time I was a kid. Like Shane said, 14 years old, there's other churches, and I like had this visualization of me being pushed up against this cliff and, like on the edge of the cliff being like, there's nothing there. There's absolutely nothing there. And I slowly, step by step, reconstructed it. And I'm like, okay, is there a God? And it took me a while to just accept that there's a God. And the most beautiful thing to me is once I had that foundation of yes, 100%, there's a God, there's a creator, I then went to Jesus, right? And I started just stacking them on. And Jesus for me was immediate. It was immediate. I'm like, 100%, there's Jesus. 100%. Okay, what's the next one, right? And so I went to the Book of Mormon. And I just slowly reconstructed it, and it has helped me so much in my life. So yeah, I think there's a lot of value of just going back in and not necessarily becoming an atheist, but just being like, why do I
Right.
believe this? Do I believe this? So let's talk about your interview with Jacob Hansen because we want people to go in and see this. There's this podcast that was done. Let me see if I can pop it up here, where Jacob jumped on. Can you see my screen here?
It's black
Alex
right now.
Travis.
There we go. Yeah, and that's Alex O'Connor.
Tell us about this. And then this kind of was the precipice for you guys' video, right?
Yeah, so basically what happened was Jacob was on this show called the Jubilee, and that's how he got to meet Alex. And we actually talk about that in the interview, is like how this all happened. And so I knew that he was going to go on Alex's program. And then today is Wednesday, and Monday the episode gets released. And shortly after it gets released, within a few hours, Jacob texts me and says, "Hey, I'd love to come on your program to talk about my conversation with Alex." So I said, "Great." I said, "I'm going to watch it tonight. And when do you want to tape?" He says, "How about tomorrow?" I said, "Okay." I said, "I'll get the thumbnail ready. I'll have my assistant do it, and we'll post it on Tuesday as soon as we're done taping." So Jacob wanted to come on my program first because he said I didn't want to come on like a faithful program and get criticized for going on these faithful programs like I'm spiking the football. Instead, you got to pull up a more flattering picture of me. There we go. That's better. So there you go. So, but yeah, and so Jacob wanted to come on and talk about this really fascinating conversation with leading one of the most leading public atheists in the world. And Jacob really, when Jacob was on that Jubilee program, he mopped the floor. Even critics of Jacob said that he did better than anybody. And so at the very end of that Jubilee episode, Jacob was the one that was chosen by Alex to do a one-on-one 10-minute conversation with him, where he peppered him with questions and stuff like that. And that's what led to him going on that program, and then him the next day coming on mine. And I think that I was really actually really honored that Jacob would want to come on my program. And yeah, Jacob has done some stuff on his program about it. And, I just think that this is good. I think it's good for Jacob to get out there and kind of, there's a lot of, look, the problem is there's just a lot of Mormons that won't engage the atheist world. And like, even when Christopher Hitchens was going around doing his book tour, offering to debate anybody, anywhere. And he made his way in the Southeast and Midwest, and there were plenty of evangelicals that were debating Christopher Hitchens. You can find all those debates on YouTube, but you can't find a single Latter-day Saint debating Christopher Hitchens. And I just think it's a shame, personally, because I would have loved to have had that more.
You know who I would love to see? I'm forgetting his name. Trevor, help me. He did a debate with the dude that talks about the Anunnaki all the time, Billy Carson. Wes Wes Huff. Is his name Wes Huff?
Yeah, it is.
Wes Huff. I would love because he's I think he's an evangelical. He's smart, very smart. Knows
He was a little just where it is. Him on Joe Rogan.
Rogan recently.
Oh, okay, okay.
Wes Huff. I'd love to have Wes Huff come on with like a Jacob Hansen and have a discussion. I think that would be incredible. I wouldn't go on with Wes Huff because listen, I'm not a debater. I don't like debate. So I would, hey, if Wes Huff is out there and see this, I would love Wes Huff, Jacob Hansen, come on, have a discussion, because I know Wes Huff talked about Mormonism on Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
And so that would be fascinating for me to see a Jacob Hansen discussion with Wes Huff. Just throwing it out there to the universe.
Yeah, why not? You never know.
So this guy, I'm forgetting his name already. I'm going backwards right here. What's this atheist guy's name? Alex O'Connor.
Mhm.
So he was the one that was on a evangelical podcast as an atheist, and they said, of all the religions, which one would you be the most interested in, right?
Play that, Trev, because it's
I
really
think I
good.
have it.
Again, it depends what you mean by walking it out, because I have
Going to church, reading, praying, confession. Like, I'm just giving you the
I've been to
basics of
church,
Christian.
I've read and I've prayed, and I've done all of these things to
As a
varying
practice,
degrees.
like as a for the next 90 days, I'm gonna pretend to be
I
Christian.
mean, as a practice, because also, thou shalt not put thy Lord to the test. Like, it starts to feel like somebody recommended to me once that you should
Is this it, Trevor?
sort of film it. You should I had this idea. If I could do a video where I live as
This isn't it.
Anyway, you'll have to find it. It's really good because he talks about, and the dude's kind of shocked. I follow that guy. I can't remember what his name is, but I follow him on my socials. He actually has pretty good stuff as just a Christian podcast, but he was kind of taken aback. He was like, huh? Mormonism? Are you kidding me? But if you just type in, no, I would type in Christian O'Connell Mormonism, and you're going to get a much better search there if you type in the dude's name. What's his name?
Alex O'Connor.
Oh, Alex.
Alex O'Connor. We're all over the place. Right there, that one, Alex O'Connell Loves Mormonism, that very top one.
That's right
there.
Alex is not joining the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. He did just do the church a big favor. Alex is a prominent atheist, and he loves challenging Christians, but he has never confronted Latter-day Saint theology. That is, until my friend Jacob Hansen got to talk with him. Yes, we're talking about the Alpha Chad Jacob Hansen, who runs the Thoughtful Faith YouTube channel. And what Jacob told Alex about the church must have had a big impact on him. Because when push came to shove and Alex was asked which Christian church he would join based on consistency of history and scripture, Alex said,
Mormonism, of course.
Oh my gosh.
and while Alex is not joining the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, he did just do the church a big favor.
That's it.
Alex,
I don't know where the actual one is, but where he actually says it, it's really interesting. I wish Trevor could find it because it is a fascinating discussion that was.
And I think that if you are a Christian apologist and you are bashing on Mormonism, you're not being fair, because if you're going to deconstruct Mormonism as an evangelical or as a Protestant or whatever, but you're not going to deconstruct your own faith, then you're not being really honest to the audience. Because if you believe in the Bible and you believe, like Jacob says, in talking donkeys and talking burning bushes and talking snakes, and you believe in resurrection and you believe in all this kind of stuff, how in the world can you just dismiss the Book of Mormon, which is what a lot of evangelicals do? So I think it was really smart. Alex was doing a tongue-in-cheek thing when he was doing that response. Everybody gets it was kind of a joke, but I think he made a great point to say that, and I really appreciate him doing that, because I think it just exposes just how bad Christian apologetics is in general.
Little bit of hypocrisy is what he was kind of putting the finger in the eye of. And so you're going to your channel, the latest one that you have. Oh, did you find it?
Yeah.
I sent it to you.
Oh,
Oh yeah, but go ahead. And David found it. Play it.
Here's an interesting one from Deadpool. He said, Alex, if you had to join one Christian denomination, which do you believe has the most consistency according to the history of the church and scripture? This is where Alex will have to pick a jersey.
Mormonism, of course.
Oh my gosh. That's amazing. We don't consider them Christians. Give me another one.
No, well, that's the interesting thing is that they're sort of often not. I don't even know if they really like to consider themselves Christians as such. I think there's some really. I've been learning a lot about Mormonism. Mormonism's a fascinating religion in many ways. A lot of people aren't aware of its history and also of a lot of its doctrines and theological ideas and its different idea about like what God is and all of this kind of stuff. And the history of persecution of Mormons in the United States is pretty amazing too. You know, like there's so much really interesting stuff. The extermination order of Missouri, where like people were told to just kill them. You know, like it's an unbelievable history. And of course, Joseph Smith dies in a shootout in prison. Like it's one of the most dramatic stories of world religion in the world.
He doesn't want this.
Of course, it remains the case that we have, because it's so new, we have better eyewitness testimony to Moroni and the plates than we do, unfortunately, to the resurrection of Jesus, it seems. But
That's right.
that was also a point that raised some eyebrows in my original video, which I found quite entertaining.
Yeah. Alex, let me ask you this.
Yeah, he did not. That dude's like, he thought he was joking. Then he realized he's not joking, and he's just like, okay, what do we do? And awesome. I mean, hey, South Park got it right. So I'm just saying, we got an atheist, we got South Park. I don't know. Maybe they're trying to tell us something.
It's interesting. Well, I mean, even South Park in the movie said that Mormonism was the true religion. So
Yeah, they're all.
It must be.
David, I don't know if you can pull that one up, but I love this. I've had people send this one to me. It's incredible. Yeah, right here.
Their faces.
Where am I? Where are we? Oh my God, what's happening? Hello, newcomers, and welcome. Can everybody hear me? Hello? Can everybody? Okay. I am the Held Director. It looks like we have about 8,615 of you newbies today. And for those of you who were a little confused, you are dead, and this is Hell. So abandon all hope and yada, yada, yada. We're now going to start the orientation process, which will last about... Hey, wait a minute. I shouldn't be here. I was a totally strict and devout Protestant. I thought we went to heaven. Yes, well, I'm afraid you were wrong. I was a practicing Jehovah's Witness. You picked the wrong religion as well. Well, who was right? Who gets into heaven? I'm afraid it was the Mormons. Yes, the Mormons were the correct answer. Oh. So now I'd like to quickly introduce your new ruler and master for eternity, Satan.
You know how Simpsons predicts things? I'm just saying they're trying to tell us. So you might want to check into Mormonism. We got an atheist, we got South Park on our side. I think we're doing pretty good. Trev, what do you think?
I'm mute.
Yeah, I was on mute. No, that's nice. I'm personally people that got offended on that Book of Mormon musical. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And how about
love it too.
I love
the music. Hey, Steven, have you seen the Book of Mormon, the musical?
I actually was going to go see it last April. Some people from my church were going to go see it, and I ended up having my health condition happen right around that time, and so I was unable to go. But I do want to get out to see that.
It's hilarious. I will go. Anybody who wants to?
I was just going to say, I'm throwing out the let's stay.
Go again. I went in London. It's been a decade since I saw it. I love the music. Listen, if you can't make fun of yourself,
right?
I don't know. There's some quote out there, like. What am I for, Trevor? Come on, you got to be able to figure yourself.
Self-deprecation.
Self-deprecation. You got to
Don't take yourself too seriously and have fun. You know, that's the whole point of my channel. Is like I don't take myself seriously. I'm having fun, and I think it's there's joy. That's having joy about it. You know, like and making it into a drudgery. And then I see way too many people, like they take themselves too seriously. They take everything too seriously. And it's like, man, I would burn out so fast if I was in that place, you know? And so like, yeah, you got to have fun. You got to have levity. And if not, then man, just,
I mean, we're weaving in giants, UFOs, Bigfoot, just to have fun here and give a little just change of cadence, and people get confused. They're like, "What are you guys doing? Why? I thought this was an LDS podcast." And it's like, hey, you can tie everything into the gospel, right?
Right.
And so yeah, I'm throwing this out there, Shane. Let's take Stephen and let's get a couple other people on that.
Let's do it. Steven, would you be down to? I don't know where it's playing. We'll have to figure out where it's playing. We'll cover it.
Manhattan.
Sure, we'll cover it. We'll go to New York. We'll do some live stuff. We'll do some filming. I listen. I need to go to New York anyways because I have a friend of mine that I need to see. I'm totally down.
Okay.
David's like, yes, please send. He's like, send me, Father, send me.
Here I am. No, we have one of our episodes we're supposed to film with Latter-day Chad is at the Met in New York. And then we're gonna go hit up a couple of the historical sites in New York.
Hey, you could do Palmyra. We could make it a thing. We could go to the Book of Mormon. Let's do it. Okay, Stephen, you down?
I'm down. When are we going to do this?
Summer.
Okay.
Summer in New York. I used to live in New York, and I would love to take you guys around. And like that is my favorite place in the world, hands down. My parents live there. I've lived there twice, and I'd love to show you guys. Like, it is.
This is great. Actually, can I also just so Scott Walter of the History Channel? He did that series called America on Earth.
Yes.
Okay. So he's been on my show a couple times.
We want to. That's one of our person on our list that we want to.
I'll get you booked. I got his cell phone. He's a good dude. He'll come on. Absolutely. But Scott. So I had on. His name escapes me at the moment. But I had on a gentleman whose father was Milton R. Hunter. His grandfather is Milton R. Hunter, who owned all the Michigan relics. He bought them. They were at the University of Notre Dame. He bought them and brought them to Utah. Okay. And then the family donated the Michigan relic collection to BYU.
Yeah.
Right. Well, then BYU decided they wanted to get rid of it and send it back to Michigan. So they got negotiations with Michigan State University to send them, but they went to the family. Alex Koritz is his name, and you guys should have Alex on. He's been on Dave Nettles' program as well. I got him booked on there. Is Alex? They went to the family and they said, we want to donate these items to Michigan State, and they said, we're okay with that under one stipulation. And that stipulation is, we don't want these to be immediately declared a hoax or a fraud. We want them to actually do a scientific study on these relics. So they said, okay. Next thing you know, they send the objects to Michigan. They're immediately declared hoaxes, and no scientific stuff was done. So I got Alex to get in touch with Scott, and they're going to fly out to Michigan, and because he's a family member, he has access to those relics, because that was one of the stipulations. Because they don't show. Scott Walter tried to see those relics, they would not let him see it.
We've been trying to get in. We just got our press pass, and we're close to getting in
to go see those relics.
Yeah.
Well, why don't I reach out to Alex, because they're going to be going out there, and maybe we could all just meet up.
That would be incredible. We've been having Brian Nettles on talking about these and the what is the other one, Dave, that we've been talking about?
The Michigan relics and the
This cave.
Burroughs Cave.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I have had Scott on twice. The first time is when he authenticated the Bat Creek stone. The second time he came on was to basically say that the Burroughs Cave relics are fake or aren't real. However, that video I did made its way around in the Burroughs Cave community, and there have been people in the Burroughs Cave community who reached out to me that want to say that no, there are fakes, but there are some authentic things too. So I think it's really that Burroughs Cave story has always been fascinating to me. I've been interested in that since I was a little kid. So it's just great this is the awesome thing. All this stuff that I grew up as a little kid, just reading about and hearing about, watching these people on the History Channel. And next thing you know, you're talking to them and you're meeting with them and they're coming on your program and you're actually trying to facilitate. Because look, the Michigan relics are fascinating. If they could be authenticated, it changes everything. Now, I'm skeptical about them, to be honest with you. But I want Scott Walter, the person does authenticate, but he also does call balls and strikes.
Or so Stephen, we've had a guy, Brian Nettles, on our podcast, and I think it'd be really awesome to link you guys up or do a podcast maybe in the future with
Yeah.
Brian.
Do you know Brian Nettles?
Well, Brian was on my episode with Chief Midiga when he got baptized.
Yeah.
I say let's introduce Scott Walter and Brian Nettles on something to the episode.
I can, yeah, I'll get you guys hooked up with that. I think that'd be great. So here we are.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. Our goal, just so you know, very similar to this the History Channel thing, we're going to be doing for Zion Streaming a 8 to 10 episode with one goal in mind. We're trying to link the old world to the new world. And you know, there's connections obviously then into the Book of Mormon, but there's been a cover-up. There's been a systematic cover-up of trying to make America this standalone continent where the natives were primitive, they didn't know anything, they had no communication, and there is an overwhelming corpus of evidence that shows no, there was transatlantic communication, there was commerce in Westminster, in New York. When we go to New York, we're going to the Westminster Museum. There's a Sumerian tablet that is a transaction, I think, of a goat cell that is 4,000 years old that they found in the Americas. And it's the Back Creek Stone, it's Burrow Caves, it's the Michigan relics. It's all of these things that just prove that no. It's not the way that we said it was. Manifest destiny was an excuse to come in here and colonize and take over this land. There was communication, there was travel, there was commerce. And, you know, all of these things that we're talking about tie right into it. And we're going to go and film an hour-long episode in each of these places and take people along with us. So I had no idea you were connected to these people. So
Oh yeah, no, I'm just blessed to be able to have all these connections. It's really awesome to do that. So, and
well, it looks like time. Shan's got our break right now. We'll do the Denver Snuffer part, and we'll get into some of your favorite ones. This was perfect flow of how things went. So Shan,
you want me to come back on and talk about Denver Snuffer next time? Okay, let's do that.
This was a great episode though.
Yeah.
This was fun just to chat, catch up. But I do agree. We need to get into Denver Snuffer. I have not read his books. I have not had a conversation with him. I would like to. I think it would be interesting. Okay.
Hey, I can try to get him on, but no, it's that we'd love. I spent that. Yeah, so I really like him.
My appointment just showed up here, so we'll go ahead and wrap. But thank you, Stephen, for coming on. It's been a great conversation. We love having you. Your energy is magnetic, to say the least. And I see why so many people are drawn to you, your channel, and the restoration. I see why you're also drawn to the restoration. So thank you for coming on. Hey, if you like this video, just smash the like button. Share it if you liked it as well. Listen, we just hit 13,000 subscribers. We are so pumped, but we want to get it even more. We want to get the message out. So our message is about Zion, creating Zion. And we're trying to do it on YouTube. We're not going to wait for anybody else to create it. So we're trying to do our best. And Zion, maybe it starts right here first and right here. So let's create Zion from within so we can create Zion from without. For myself, I'm Shane Baldwin. For Trevor the Key Keys and David the Lion Douglas and the man, the myth, the legend, Stephen Pynakker. We'll see you guys all next time.
Yeah. I am blessed, I am strong, I am chosen, I am right. I keep pushing when I fall, I keep walking in the light. They be wondering how I win, how I shine so bright. Boy, I walk with the Lord, that's my birthright. I done fell, I done lost, but I stood up tall. Took my L's, learned my lessons, yeah, I answered the call. I got fire in my soul, I got heaven in my step. I got favor cause I follow what the Savior said. If you love him, then you keep it, boy, that's law. Ain't no shortcuts to the top, gotta walk. Ain't no fear when you know you got the key. For I, the Lord, I'm bound, yeah, he promised me. I see the test, I take the hit, I dust it off, I never quit. I do his will, he send the checks, I flip the gift, I reinvest. I am strong, I am free, I am kingdom made. I keep faith, I keep working, yeah, I love this game. I take loss, I take pain, yeah, that's part of the way. But I rise, I stay blessed, boy, I never fade. Oh, standing tall, oh, through it all. Oh, we ain't slowing down, we the army of God. abundance, boy, the blessings flow. I don't chase, I attract, I keep my mind intact. I say I am that I am, yeah, the truth stays stacked. Boy, I don't need the fake, I don't need the hype. I just need my covenants, I just need my sight. I keep my focus, keep my steps, keep my garments clean. Boy, the Lord make it happen when you move like a king. I see the test, I take the hit, I dust it off, I never quit. I do his will, he send the checks, I flip the gift, yeah, I reinvest. I am strong, I am free, I am kingdom made. I keep faith, I keep working, yeah, I love this game. I take loss, I take pain, yeah, that's part of the way. But I rise, I stay blessed, boy, I never fade. Oh, standing tall, oh, through it all. Oh, we ain't slowing down, we the army of God. We don't break, we don't bow. Boy, I've been hit, but I still rise. Faith too strong, I see through lies. I keep commandments, I keep truth. And in the end, I never lose. Yeah.